Okay, I've got a legal case for you today that, on the surface, just makes absolutely no sense. It's a story with a verdict that seems, well, downright impossible. So let's dig in and try to unravel how this could have possibly happened.
So the setup here is really straightforward. A guy gets into a traffic accident. He calls up his friend and asks him to lie to the cops for him, to take the fall. I mean, it's a classic, open and shut cover-up, right?
You'd think so. But here's the twist. The case goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they look at this crystal clear cover-up and find him not guilty. Yep, innocent.
Right? I mean, how is that even possible? That's the million-dollar question, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack. To understand this absolutely stunning reversal, we need to go right back to the beginning.
All right, Section 1, the accident and the cover-up. Let's get the facts straight about what exactly went down that night. The court records lay it all out pretty clearly.
Okay, so here's the play-by-play. It's just after 6 p.m., March 12, 2022. Zhou Jingwei gets into a car accident with a cyclist. Now here's the kicker. He's already wanted by the police for something else entirely, so when the cops show up, he naturally starts to panic. He gets on the phone, calls his buddy Zhang Bowei, and asks for a huge favor. Zhang shows up, walks right up to the police and says, "I was the one driving." Just like that. The lie is told.
So next up, the first ruling. And at first this all played out exactly like you'd expect. The cover-up was pretty blatant, and it looked like the consequences were going to be just as straightforward.
So the case goes to the Yilan District Court. They look at the evidence and, pretty quickly they find Zhu Jingwei guilty. The official charge was instigating a cover-up, which is basically just the legal term for getting someone to lie and take the blame for you. And this wasn't just some slap on the wrist either. He got a real sentence, 3 months in prison. So at this point in the story, everything adds up, right? Crime, cover-up, guilty verdict, jail time. Makes perfect sense. But this is where the whole thing gets turned completely on its head. The case gets appealed, and it climbs all the way up to the Supreme Court. And what do they decide? The total opposite, not guilty. The whole conviction just gone, overturned. Okay, on to the really juicy part, the law's curious logic. So to actually get how this happened, you have to kind of set aside your gut reaction and dive into some really fascinating and, frankly, pretty counterintuitive legal thinking.
So first, let's just make sure we're all on the same page with the charge itself. It's called instigating a cover-up, and it's pretty much what you'd think. It's the crime of telling someone to take the blame for you so that you, the actual person who did it, can hide. And that's exactly what he was first found guilty of.
But here is the legal concept that changes everything. It's a doctrine called expectation of possibility. And it asks this really deep question. When you're in a moment of extreme pressure, total panic, and your basic survival instinct kicks in, can the law reasonably expect you to fight against that instinct and do the right thing? And the Supreme Court came back with a pretty shocking answer to that question. They said, and I'm quoting from their decision here, for the perpetrator, asking someone not to engage in a cover-up for them clearly lacks the expectation of possibility. Basically, what they're saying is that when a person is desperate to hide, it is unreasonable for the law to expect them not to try and cover up their crime. That instinct for self-preservation is just too powerful. All right, let's break down exactly why the verdict was reversed. The whole thing hinges on how the court connected this big idea of expectation of possibility to the actual case. They laid it out in this really interesting step-by-step argument. Okay, so check out this chain of reasoning. Step 1. Just hiding yourself, like if a criminal runs from the cops, that act of hiding isn't a separate crime you can be punished for. Step 2. They argue that asking someone else to help you hide is basically just an extension of that same act of self-protection. Step 3, and this is the crucial part, they used a legal principle that's kind of like saying, if you allow the big thing, you have to allow the small thing. Which brings us to the wild conclusion in Step 4. If the bigger act of hiding yourself isn't a punishable crime, then the smaller act of asking a friend to help you hide can't be a crime either. It just logically can't be.
So where does this all leave us? This brings us to the big idea here. Justice versus human nature. Because this verdict isn't just some weird legal loophole. No, it actually points to this huge ongoing tension between what the law wants us to do and, well, what our basic human instincts drive us to do.
And what this really all boils down to is something pretty profound. The court's decision is basically an admission that our instinct for self-preservation is a primal, powerful force. It's the law itself saying, look, we have rules and ideals, but we also have to be realistic about what we can expect from a human being who is scared and just trying to save their own skin.
And that leaves us with a really tough, lingering question to chew on. In this case, asking someone to lie for you was considered an extension of self-preservation and therefore not a crime. But it makes you wonder, where do we draw the line? I mean, how far can that instinct to protect yourself go before it starts to chip away at our duty to the truth, and maybe even justice itself? It's a tricky one, and definitely something worth thinking about.